Hey, and I got the chat working on the video. Hell yeah. Yeah, so if you listen to this live, you'll see the chat live just on Mixer itself. But if you look at this later on, the video itself, you'll actually be able to follow the chat through the video in case people hop in. Know what I'm saying, replying back to when they actually hop in that bitch. So with that being said, let's see. Yep, I'm live. Let's go. With that being said, I'm here. This is Kyle High Fight Club number 31, which is still fucking weird. That's a large number as far as just talking fights for hours at a time. But I'll be primarily previewing UFC 250 during this episode, which is between the main event is between Amanda Nunez versus Felicia Spencer. And a bunch of other fights, very good fights in there as well. But to start, I'm just going to kind of review and kind of gloss over my takeaways, I guess, from UFC Fight Night between Tyron Woodley and Gilbert Burns. As far as, that main event fight, Burns looked good. He looked legit. I've seen him fight his last couple fights, and I thought, this guy looks legit. I could see him, getting a title shot with the next couple of years. He's even proven me I don't know about more right, but he's proven, I guess, even more to me. Not that he has to prove anything to me. I'm a nobody, but he definitely deserves a title shot. Now, I don't know if he'll get it his next fight, just because there's so many guys in that pecking order. And I don't know what Usman's doing or who he's going to fight next or what have you. So I don't know. But he's definitely up there. I mean, I think he was 6 coming ranked in, so obviously at least, top 5 if you just beat the number one contender, number one ranked contender. As far as Woodley, he sounded really good in his post-fight speech. He was very humble, kind of admitted some of the mistakes he had. But I think he'll have a little more takeaways when he actually watches the film. He kind of fought the same way when he fought Usman. He did get rocked pretty early by Burns and then kind of probably drained his confidence and his adrenaline and his, everything. It just takes the game plan, everything out the window, and you get dropped in the first couple minutes of a fight. And, he's pretty much defensive for the remainder of the fight, on his back foot, always backing up to the cage and kind of just looking for that right hand to end it. But can't take anything away from Burns. He just fought a brilliant fucking fight. And if you look at the score here, it's 44-50, 44-50, 45-50, all for Burns. So that pretty much tells the story. Kind of same scorecard that he had when Woodley fought Usman. I think Burns actually did better versus Woodley because he actually stunned him and dropped him a few times. Was close to finishing. Usman definitely put pressure on him, kind of fucking him up. But I don't know if he was ever close to actually finish or stopping him. Blagoy Sakai was a decent fight. Billy Quartino versus Spike Carlisle, Alpha Ginger. I thought Alpha Ginger definitely had that first round, just came out there crazy aggressive. He said it, and I think his opponents definitely say he's a first round fighter. He tries to finish the first round. After that, who knows what the fuck happens. A second round was a who to know what the fuck happens. Carlisle had his moments, but Quartino also, I think, kind of control the ring or the grappling, a little more, but Carlisle was a little more explosive and had, I guess, bigger strikes, but Quarantino kind of controlled the round a little more. All judges gave it to him that second round. I could give a toss-up. Originally I had it for Alpha Ginger, but I also put money on Alpha Ginger. So a little bias there, and Quarantino definitely had that third round. So I'm not mad at the decision. All in all, good fight. Roosevelt Roberts versus Brock Weaver. It was a decent fight. Roosevelt Roberts just showed that he is just a superior fighter. Just more technical, longer. Every time Bisping said this, on air as he was in the commentating team or whatever. The straighter shots, the straighter punches will always get there before the looping or the hooking shots. and especially if you're the longer, taller fighter. And that was pretty much the case here. And he was so lightning fast. Just Weaver couldn't never touch him. He ended up submitted him there. Rear naked choke, round 2. Good fight. Mackenzie Dern got a fucking nasty knee bar versus Hannah Cyphers. Cyphers looked good, was bringing the pressure a lot there in the beginning of that first round, but she just stayed a little too close. Once Dern, got on her back, Cyphers wasn't, disengaging. She probably should have, hindsight is obviously 2020. But, Dern was on her back laying down, and Cyphers was kind of okay, chilling around within, playing with her guard, playing with her feet a little bit. And she just stuck around there to, for a couple seconds longer than she should have. Dern wrapped up that knee like she had done it hundreds of thousands of times, which she has probably. I don't know about hundreds of thousands. That's a lot, but definitely hundreds, if not thousands. Just wrapped her up, got the tap there. Katlyn Chookagian versus Antonina Shevchenko, Valentina's older sister. Just domination completely by Chookagian. All judges had it 30-25 for all 3 rounds, all 3 judges. Just superior grappling, and that's all it was. Kind of predicted that. I believe that was the only fight I got right as far as, I bet on Burns too. That Burns in this fight. I got everything else wrong. I think I bet on Weaver, I bet on Alpha Ginger, and Black Oi. Got all 3 of those wrong. That was it. Rodriguez, Gabe Green was a decent fight. Jamel Hill came out and fucked up Klidson Abreu. I liked Jamal Hill. Seen him fight Contender Series in his first couple fights in the UFC. Very athletic guy, very explosive. Still very raw and kind of green in his technical abilities. More technical than me, obviously. But Abreu, coming into this, said he saw a big hole in Hill's ground game. He was going to take him down and submit him. Never got that chance. Got kneed in the face and knocked out. That's a fight game. As far as the Tim Elliott, Brandon Royval fight, another loss for Tim Elliott, man. He got submitted by arm triangle round 2. So who knows what it goes from there. Great showing by Royval to get a big win over a big name guy. Should propel him up in his career and probably get a, I was going to say tougher challenger, but Tim Elliott's a fucking tough of a challenge for your, I think that might have been his UFC debut. If not his debut, then it was his second UFC fight. That's a crazy fight, so we'll see who fights next. Between this next fight, Louis Smolka, Casey Kenny. Good fight. Just, like I said, I think, in the preview for this card, I think Casey Kenny's a top 15 guy, easily. I mean, guillotine Smolka round 1. Smolka's a legit guy, been around for a while in the UFC. He's been a roster stablemate for a little while, for a couple years. Kenny, disposed of him pretty easily around 1 there. I believe he knocked him down with strikes, with punches at first, and then hopped on top of him, got that guillotine, which is really tight. It was nasty. Smolka had no other choice but to tap there. And that first fight, Chris Gutierrez and Morales, I was half asleep, so I didn't really watch that. So yeah, that's it for the takeaways. So the only thing is I guess wait to see who Woodley or Burns fight next. And we won't know until fucking Usman, is scheduled to fight somebody. He's going to fight Masvidal. He's going to fight Colby Covington again. Is he going to fight Leon Edwards? I don't know what's happening. Everyone thought it was going to be Masvidal for the longest time, but haven't seen it. Haven't seen a deal materialize or anything like that to this point. What's up, girl? Gracie just walked in from outside. Yeah, so we'll see what happens. Kind of look forward to seeing who Woodley would fight next. I don't know. There's some good matches up there, but it sounds like he wants to come back. So we'll see. But if he loses the next fight, I think he should probably retire. As far as this card, UFC 250 taking place this weekend, June 6, 2020. They'll be having at the UFC Apex again in Las Vegas. Early prelims. All of these will be on ESPN. All these fights will be on ESPN and ESPN Plus. All the way from the early prelims to the pay-per-view main card and main event. Early prelims at 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern. Prelims at 7 Central, 8 Eastern. And pay-per-view main card at 9 Central, 10 Eastern. As far as this card, I'm going to start from the bottom up because I actually did notes on this. I originally wasn't going to do notes, but then I looked at some of these cards, especially on the prelims and early prelims. I know most of these guys at least by name, but I can't exactly remember who they fought and stuff. So just save myself and yourself some time. Just did a quick little look up on who they last fought and such, so I can kind of rattle those off a little bit easier, not having to click on links and waiting for them to load while I'm streaming and recording and blah blah blah. It's just a whole thing. But yeah, anyways. First fight of the night is actually a catchweight fight, I believe, at 150 pounds between Evan Durnham, who's 18-8-1 in his overall career, versus Herbert Burns, who is I think he's the younger brother of Gilbert, but they seem pretty close in age. And he is 10-2. As I said, this will take place at 150. They didn't have odds when I first came here, but now the odds are at plus 190 for Evan Durnham, minus 230 for Hilbert for Herbert Burns. Far as Evan Dunham, he's been around for a long time, veteran in this game, 38 years old, currently training out of Extreme Couture there in Las Vegas. He's 0-2-1 in his last 3. Lost versus French. He had 2 losses versus Francisco Trinaldo and Olivier Meerschaert, young Canadian fighter, up-and-comer. And then had a draw versus Beneil Dariush before that. So hasn't had some wins in a while, and this is actually be his first fight in about 2 years. Last fought in September of 2018. So almost 2 years there. And like I said, this man's been around for a long-ass time, Evan Durnham. Debuted in the UFC back at UFC 95. And this is now 250. So fucking 155 events later. He's still fighting. It's crazy. Overall in the UFC, he's been 11-8-1. So kind of close to a 500 fighter there. Fighting a hungry up-and-comer in Herbert Burns. Herbert the Blaze Burns, 10-2 in his overall career, 32 years old. He was on Dana White's Contender Series, Season 3, Week 7. If you want to check one of those fights out, I believe he submitted the guy. I want to say first round, but I can't remember. But he also won his UFC debut and looks solid. Decent striking, just like his brother, and his jiu-jitsu is world class, top of the food chain, just like his brother. I got Burns all day in this fight. Minus 230, though. I don't really... I see him winning this fight. I don't want to say no matter what, but I'm leaning like 90-95%. But even at minus 230, as far as myself, I myself am not betting, hundreds of dollars on these fights, so I don't see too much of a great value here. And if it's the fight game. Nothing's 100%. Like I said, I'm 90 or 95%. Even if I think the guy's going to win, 10 out of 10 times, I'll still say 99% confidence because there's always that 1%. You can always get hit by one punch, and a lot of times, maybe not a lot of times, but at least some of the times, that's all you need. That is all you need sometimes. But nonetheless, yes, I like Burns in this matchup. As far as the next fight in the early prelims, we got Alonzo Minnifield, who is 9-0 overall in his career, undefeated. This versus Devin Clark, who's 11-4 in his career. This is a light heavyweight matchup. Alonzo Minnifield is 32 years old. He's 2-0 in the UFC, undefeated overall, so undefeated in the UFC. Won his last fight versus Paul Craig and actually got a knockout there. He was also on the Contender Series, Season 2, Week 1. Just strong, if you're looking at the video here, strong, fucking built dude. Light heavyweight too, so 205 pounders. And he's fighting Devin Brown Bear Clark, who's 30 years old. He trains out of Jackson Wink MMA. And he's been about a 500 fighter since he's got in the UFC, 5-4 in the UFC. So all of, he's 11-4 in his career, 5-4 in the UFC. All of his losses have came in the UFC. So this might be, I don't know where his contract is at, but this might be not might be. I mean, every fight's a big fight. Your biggest fight is always your next fight. So this is a big fight for him potentially, and big fight for Minnifield. Versus a guy that's kind of 500 in the UFC, kind of facing, I guess, a bigger name guy. The two wins he's had in the UFC. Besides versus Paul Craig or top level guys, and Devin Clark's not a top level guy either, but he's at least had almost. This would be his 10th fight, so. See how it goes. Guys are both 6 foot. Reach is about the same. This will be a. Devin Clark likes to take it down more. Whereas Minnifield, I'm pretty confident, likes to just stand up and bang. Stand up and strike. As far as odds, minus 230 for Minnifield, plus 190 for Devin Clark. As far as the fight itself, I'm kind of leaning towards Minnifield, but I do not like the minus 230 odds. So, I mean, it's the same odds as the previous fight, minus 230 plus 190. Whereas Herbert Burns, I'm like 90, 95% confident in him winning. At Minnifield, I'm more at like 60, 65, 70 tops. I like 65%. So at that, plus 190, I don't mind betting on Devin Clark here, especially if you're not betting too much, $5. Fuck it, why not? If you bet $5, ooh, you might get 6 in return. Whatever. So now you got a free meal at Taco Bell. You got a free $5 big box at Taco Bell. But nonetheless, that'll be a good fight. To close out the early prelims, we got Cierra Formiga versus Alex Perez. Cierra Formiga is 23-7 overall in his mixed martial arts career, ranked 4th overall at 125 flyweight division. Alex Perez, 23-5, ranked number 9 in the flyweight division. So a couple ranked contenders here at 125 to close out the early prelims and get us into the prelims. As far as Formiga, he's 35 years old, trains out of American Top Team. He's currently on a 2-fight losing streak versus Bryan Moreno and Joseph Benavidez. I mean, nothing to hang your hat on there. Two very, very legit guys. As Benavidez fought for the title, his last fight, Bryan Moreno, up-and-comer, very solid guy. And very thick, very big for that division at 125. He looks like, when he's in there, 140, 150 pounds. Formiga is definitely a 125er. He'd be, I think he's kind of undersized for 125. He'd be definitely undersized for 135. As far as Alex Perez, he is the younger fighter at 28 years old, and he's currently on a 2-fight win streak versus Jordan Espinoza and Mark De La Rosa. He's 5-1 in the UFC, and his only loss was versus Joseph Benavidez. So again, nothing to hang your hat on there. Benavidez last fight for the title, his last fight, as I just fucking said. And Perez was on season 1, week 5 of Dana White's Contender Series, I believe. So this is kind of a, classic case of the young up-and-comer on a win streak, trying to break in the top 5 here, top 3 potentially, vault himself towards a title contention versus Cierra Formiga versus the veteran who's been around for a while. He's been around the game, but he's currently on a losing streak and, trying to keep that top 5, top 3 title contention spot. So I think it's just classic story of that. As far as odds, they're currently sitting at plus 120 for the veteran Formiga and the challenger Formiga, and Perez at minus 140. And honestly, I like Perez in this fight. I don't know about percentages. I don't remember too much of his fighting style, but I still kind of like him. float around that 50 to 60% range. So minus 140 there, not bad. But the betting sharks or what have you, the betting experts always tell you if it's 50-50 in your mind and it's 50-50 for odds, or they usually just say if it's 50-50 for the odds and like it's a close fight, you have to bet on the underdog just because that's where the value is at. But I don't know, man. I'm not an expert, and I've been losing money on this, so I'm probably shouldn't give too much advice. Cause hey, what's up, Darius? I see you just gave me the host. Appreciate you chiming in. Thanks for you in the chat here. Who I'm liking most of the next card. I don't know, man. I mean, I'm just going through these bottom fights at first, just close out the early prelims. But I guess just off the top of my head, obviously like Amanda Nunez in the main card, clearly. I think that fight is kind of the same story of when Ronda fought Holly Holm, though. And everyone was like, oh, who the fuck is Holly Holm? She's fighting a nobody. But then Holly Holm head kicked her and knocked her out, and the rest is history. Now, I don't think that will happen here, but I think Felicia Spencer is definitely a tough competitor, tough contender. You know, her wrestling is very legit, but Amanda Nunez is very thick and powerful, got heavy hands. She's going to keep her away with that. I'm sure she can sprawl. She's Brazilian. She's got to know. I'm pretty sure she's black belt Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so be a good fight. As far as the rest of the card, this is Sunsao versus Garbrandt fight will be a good fight. Those guys will just be throwing leather for the most part. I think my favorite fight in the card overall, though, is this Aljamain Sterling versus Corey Sandhagen, two contenders there. Aljo is number 2 and Sandhagen's number 4 in their divisions at 135 respectively. So I think whoever wins that fight will get shot the next, get shot at the title next. So I'm really looking forward to that one. Neil Magny, Anthony Rocco Martin, that's a great fight as well. Magny's been looking fucking real solid his past couple fights. Yeah, I think Nunez will win. I was saying earlier before you got on, I don't ever like to give 100% in fights because it can always be, one punch knockout here or there. But this is pretty much as close to 100% as you can get, I think. I don't ever want to, 100% say that, but definitely 99.9999% she wins. Felicia Spencer's boxing is kind of amateur. Her wrestling is very, very, very legit. But as I said a little bit earlier, I think Nunez is strong. She knows how to fucking sprawl. And like I said, she's black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so there's no kind of reason why she shouldn't be able to keep this standing and be able to knock her out in the first 2 rounds, I'd say, if not the first. Sean O'Malley, Eddie Wineland's a great fight. Sean O'Malley, the Sugar Show. Caceres, Chase Hooper. Heinisch, Gerald Meerschaert, that will be a good one. Stamann Keller is pretty good. Yeah. Yeah, Nunez is the scariest. Well, I mean, she's the greatest women's fighter of all time. Name anyone else who's in that contention or who's in that fucking, spot of the female GOAT. She's beat them all. She's beat Ronda. She beat Cyborg. And she's beat them all by knockout. She beat Holly Holm. She beat Miesha Tate. She beat Shevchenko twice. I know, besides, the smaller girls, which she'd probably obviously beat just by being bigger, she's beat everybody. And I think she'd beat a lot of guys, too. She's a scary girl, man. And she's probably going to do something scary again this weekend. We'll see, though. But yeah, as far as I guess getting the prelims, get a little more into it. Kind of already talked about the early prelims. So to start off, Oh wait, no, that's the whole fucking main card. I was about to skip like 4 or 5 fights there. Damn. Close out the early prelims. Start the prelims here. The first fight of the prelims, middleweight bout, 185 between Charles Byrd and Maki Pitolo. I believe his nickname is Coconut Bombs, which I believe is the best nickname on this card. As far as Charles Byrd, he's 10-6 in his overall MMA career. Charles Kid Dynamite Byrd, he's 36 years old, but he's fucking jacked. If you can see him on the video, the dude's fucking jacked. He's in shape. He's very young in his MMA career. He's only had 16 fights, so he's not very weathered. He's not as weathered as most guys at 36, that have been fighting all their lives. He trains out of Fortis MMA out of there in Dallas. A very good camp there. He's got a lot of good guys to train with, but unfortunately he's on a 2-fight losing streak versus Edmund Shabazian, who's a great up-and-coming guy that we should see in the top 15 here soon. Very solid guy, and he's only like 20 years old. And then also lost versus Daniel Stewart, fight before that, but Daniel Stewart, another legit guy, been in the UFC for a couple years now. I think he floats around like 500, but nothing really to hang your hat on there in those fights. But he did win his UFC debut, so far he's 1-2 in the UFC. This is Charles Byrd. He was on Dana White's Contender Series, Season 1, Week 1, and Week 6 of Season 1 as well. And he's fighting a guy that was on Season 3, Week 3, and Maki Coconut Bombs Pitolo. I believe he trains out of Hawaii. He's from Hawaii, 29 years old. This is his second UFC fight. He lost his debut originally. As far as odds and who I like in this fight, Charles Kid Dynamite Byrd is minus 170. And Coconut Bombs is sitting at plus 150 currently. I like Byrd, honestly. I think he's just the more, both of these guys are kind of raw in their game and kind of early in their careers, even though Byrd's 36. They both throw heavy hands, heavy punches, but I think Byrd is probably just a little more athletic, a little stronger right now, and I think a little more well-rounded. So I like that minus 170 as far as odds makers. As far as betting my own money on it, I don't like putting money on that 170. I might fucking put money on that on Coconut Bombs there just to land one of them Coconut Bombs and kind of finish the fight there to maybe get a couple dollars there. We'll see. But that'll be that's a pretty good fight to start off the prelims, if I do say so myself. As far as the next fight, featherweight matchup. Between Cody Stamann and Bryan Keller. So as I said, a featherweight matchup. It was 145. Stamann, usually fights at 35. He's actually ranked number 12 overall in the bantamweight division, 135 pounds. I guess he's moving up for 145. I don't really know the whole backstory of that. I'm assuming just because it's short notice and he can't cut all that weight. That's my guess. But he's 18-2-1 in his overall career. That's Cody Stamann. Cody, the Spartan Stamann. He kind of does look like a Spartan. Or somebody you'd see in like Spartacus or some shit like that. 30 years old, trains out of Michigan Top Team. Currently 4-1-1 in the UFC overall. So pretty good success early in his UFC career. He had a draw in his last fight for Song Yadong. Which I think was a little controversial, if I remember correctly. If I remember correctly, I had money on Song Yadong. So, and I thought Stamann won the fight, if I remember correctly. So I was a little relieved when Yadong, well, I guess when it was a draw, I still lost my money, but that, I guess I didn't lose my bet entirely. But nonetheless, still looked good in that fight. As I said, Stamann's 4-1-1 in the UFC. His only loss during that time was against Aljamain Sterling, who fights later in this card and is a top 2 guy at 135. Stamann's had wins versus Alejandro Perez, Brian Caraway, Tom Duquesnoy, and Terrion Ware. So 4 legit guys there. for his 4 wins in the UFC. Four very, very legit guys there. Um, as far as Bryan Boom Keller, he is that 32 or 33? It looks like 32 years old. Currently on a 2-fight win streak, 5-3 in the UFC overall. Um, and for his 3 losses, he's lost versus Montel Jackson, John Lineker, and Marlon Vera. As far as his 5 wins, there's some decent guys in there, but it's not like big name, kind of guys that kind of, you would put on your fight resume like, oh, look, I beat these guys, so I should get paid more money. Not trying to diminish him. Obviously, this guy would still probably knock me the fuck out easily. But as far as picking this fight and the odds, I really like Stamann, but he's sitting at minus 270, so not too much value there. Bryan Keller's sitting there at plus 230 in the underdog spot. Always got punter's chance, but I really like Stamann in this fight. And nonetheless, it will still be a good fight. Talking about good fights, this next fight will be a good fucking fight between Ian, the Hurricane Heinisch, and Gerald GM3 Meerschaert. Ian Heinisch is 13-3 overall. He's currently ranked number 13 in middleweight division, 185. Even though he was on a losing streak, even though he's on a 2-fight losing streak, still in the ranking spot. So doing something right if you're on a losing streak and still in top 15. But he trains at a Tiger Muay Thai there in Thailand. Very, very illustrious, very popular camp. Very well regarded in the fighting community. And his 2 losses he had in his last 2 fights came versus Mario Akhmedov and Derek Bronson. So very 2 legit guys there in the middleweight division. The Hurricane, Ian Heinisch, was on the Contender Series Season 2, Week 7. That's kind of where he kind of started his popularity. If you know his backstory at all, he was previously incarcerated in prison for several years. I forget what he did. I think he might have killed somebody in self-defense, but still went to jail for it, and kind of obviously his life spiraled out of control there. He said he was addicted to drugs, I think, as well, but kind of found fighting in prison and kind of redeemed himself, and now on a big stage and making money for himself and his family to survive and support his family and all that good stuff. It's a pretty cool background story if you want to look into it more. As far as GM3, Gerald Meerschaert, 30-12 in his overall career. 32 years old, fights out of Rufusport here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 6-4 in the UFC overall. He won his last fight versus Darian Wynn, round 3 submission. Very good fight. Just kind of just fucked Wynn up. Just very good fight. I could say a lot about that fight, honestly. There's a lot to get into, but I don't want to get too much into it. But then he lost his last fight versus Eric Anders, but then won the fight before that versus Trevin Giles, but then lost versus Kevin Holland and Jack Hermanson. So although Meerschaert's 6-4 in the UFC, he's that's 500, but the guys towards the top tier, every time he's kind of fought like the top tier guys, it kind of, oh, you beat this guy, you might have a ranking towards your name, the next week or whatever. He's always kind of come up a little bit short. It's just, not able to get over that hump or that level. I don't know if Heinisch is that quote-unquote next level, but I think he's a little more, I don't know, it's a very interesting fight. He's definitely more, he's more powerful. His striking is definitely more powerful, more dangerous. I don't know if he's more technical. Gerald Meerschaert's very technical, skilled grappler. If he gets to the ground, I was gonna say he might have his way, but I don't think he'll even have his way just because Ian Heinisch is so fucking strong. I think this will be a classic fight of the powerful striker who can brawl, sprawl and brawl and knock you out with one strike or couple punch combination, versus the guy that stays technical. He's Gerald Meerschaert has pretty good striking. Go back and watch a Darren Wynn fight. even though he's much longer than Wynn, so he could touch him when Wynn couldn't. His striking, he doesn't gas himself out with the strikes. He doesn't put everything in his punches, so it's very calculated and technical, crisp, straight, sharp punches. Um, and he knows how to condition himself. He's been grappling his entire life. I'm pretty sure he's a black belt, a very solid grappler. He can out grapple most in this division, besides like the top tier guys like a Darren Brunson. Um, so yeah, I think this will be a case of, is Ian Heinisch going to go out there and knock him out in the first round or early second round, or will Meerschaert kind of survive it? Kind of keep him at length. Use his technique and kind of pick away at Heinisch and then take him down. You know, just get pressure on top of him, kind of drain his tank, and then eventually gas him out, and eventually have his way and either get a TKO from ground and pound or a simple submission. So I think before I started, kind of nitpicking and detailing it in my mind and explaining it, I really liked Heinisch, especially at these odds. But now I don't know, I like Meerschaert's game, even though he hasn't always came out the best for guys that are very powerful, and they're striking. So I don't know. It's kind of a toss up. And Heinisch is at the Hurricane. Ian Heinisch is at -130 currently at the favorite. Gerald GM3 Meerschaert at +110. And I don't know, as I said kind of earlier, the betting sharks, the experts on betting are always like, if you think it's 50-50 and the odds are kind of a coin flip, always go with the underdog, just for value's sake. And I think I might go that way come the night of the fight, but we'll see. It was a very, very good fight there. I really, really like that fight. Why did my mouse just get super big? Oh, this is a good fight as well. Kind of a classic matchup as well. Here to close out the prelims versus Alex Caceres and Chase Hooper. This featherweight matchup at 145. Excuse me, needed some water there. Alex Bruce Leroy Caceres is 15-10 overall in his mixed martial arts career. Again, this is at 145. Caceres Bruce Leroy is 31 years old. He did win his last fight versus Steven Peterson. I saw in the Contender Series as a nice little Superman tattooed on his chest. But then lost to Kron Gracie before that, but round one submission. Gracie is just jiu-jitsu wizard. And Caceres' grappling is very, not amateur, but it's not in the, it's clearly not to the level of the Gracie black belt. And Gracie name. But Caceres Bruce Leroy, man, he's been on the roster, UFC roster since 2011. Since he was a fucking 2011, so 9 years ago, since he was 20 almost, 2021. Since then, he's been 10-1 in UFC, so exactly 500 to wins 10 losses, 1 draw. He fights just like his nickname, Bruce Leroy. Very karate, kind of exciting, a lot of kicks, a lot of exciting stuff. A lot of times doesn't always get the job done, not very technical. He's very long, so it works for him, but when it comes to grappling, he's not there, and I think that won't bode well for him versus Chase Hooper. Chase the Dream Hooper is 20 years old. Jiu-jitsu, I was going to say phenom, not really phenom. He's just very good at jiu-jitsu, and he's long himself. He's actually longer than Caceres. Caceres is 5'10", Chase Hooper 6'1". He's got a 1-inch reach advantage over him. This is at 145, so very long and lanky guys here. But it's a long, lanky striker versus a long, lanky grappler. Chase Hooper's striking isn't really great, but he utilizes it well to get inside and get his grappling game going. Hooper won his debut versus Daniel Tamor, which was a great fight to watch. If you can watch that again and see this kid's full potential, that is a great fight to watch because Timur is a fucking legit guy. He's been around for a little while. He got some of the best skills in the UFC period and was a very highly touted prospect coming up. But Hooper, Timur striking is legit too. Hooper, kind of sustained the striking, kind of went with him a little bit in the striking, but then once it got to the ground, even though Timur was clearly the bigger and stronger, and actually a man, I think he's like 30 years old now, or at least was close to it, whereas Hooper's 20. And when you're 20 years old, you don't have any of your, you still have strength, but you have none of your man strength there, You got to build that adult strength, that man strength. And he's still able to hold Timur down. As the bigger, kind of stronger guy. So I'm thinking we'll do the same here for Caceres as far as odds. Caceres plus 160 at the underdog. Hooper minus 180. I think those odds are probably right, so I'm not really liking them as far as betting on. Again, Caceres could always kick his head off and get the knockout, so that's a good little thing if you like the underdog there. But we shall see. And that closes out prelims. Still have a whole fucking main card to go, and I'm like 45 minutes into this bitch. I hate talking so much. Why do I do this? I don't know. Because I like it. Fucking weird. I hate talking, but here I am. Talking for an hour straight. Once a week. Yeah. Here we are at the main card opener between Eddie Wineland and Sugar Sean O'Malley. This should be a good fight. Again, main card, this is a pay-per-view event. UFC 250 will be between, Nunez and Spencer to headline. But we're opening up with Eddie Wineland versus Sean O'Malley. This classic veteran gatekeeper to the up-and-comer with all the hype. And let's see if you can, get into the gate, homie. Wineland's been around forever. 24-13-1 his career. 35 years old, made his UFC debut all the way back at UFC 128, so fucking 100 and almost, I don't fucking know, man, 125 events later, 122 events later. That was back in March 2011, so he's been in the UFC almost a decade, and he was a former WC champ for a couple, well, he was only a WC champ for one fight, won the fight, and didn't defend the belt. But he's been fighting for a long ass time. He's been 6 and 7 in the UFC since, so kind of out of his prime since he came to the UFC. As far as Sugar Sean O'Malley, this kid hasn't even reached his prime yet. 25 years old, trains out at MMA lab there in Phoenix, Arizona. 3-0 in the UFC currently versus his last fight versus Jose Quinones. Fucked him up, knocked him out in the first round. Jose Quinones is a very talented guy, very quick, straight, sharp, quick striker. And O'Malley outstruck him, fucked him up. Then beat Andre Sukumtop before that. He broke his fucking leg or his ankle or something and still beat him. Was hobbling around on one foot, still beat him. And beat Terry Onware before that. It was also a very hyped up prospect. O'Malley first got his hype and renown in the Contender Series. Kind of blew up the Contender Series scene with, he's just a very gravitating personality. He did go on Joe Rogan's podcast at one point, say almost a year or two ago now. Just a very likable kid. I'm 25 years old myself. If me and him went to the same jiu-jitsu class, we'd probably end up being friends, smoking weed all the time before and after class and shit. But very legit guy. Very, very exciting to watch as well. And undefeated still at 11-0. So he's got all the confidence in the world. And the MMA world and the fucking Vegas and the betting odds makers got all the confidence in him because he's sitting at minus 500 to plus 400. And I like O'Malley in this fight, but those odds are insane. Wineland, as I said, is a veteran, been around the game forever, kind of seen it all. He still has heavy hands himself. So I think that's a little disrespectful as far as the odds, but O'Malley's legit, man, and he will have a 4-inch height advantage, and 3-inch reach advantage. And both these guys are more strikers, so I think OMalley is the more technical and more diverse and exciting striker. So I think it's his fight all day. I like it 95%. I don't like it 99. I like it 95 though. Far as the next fight is between Neil Magny and Anthony Rocco Martin. So 170 welterweight fight. Neil Magny looked really, really sharp in his last fight. I bet against him in the last fight. I feel terrible for that. Magny is 32 years old, 22-8 overall. Fights out of Elevation Fight Team there in Denver, Colorado. I said looked great in his last fight versus Ying Ji Lang. Hope I said that right. Probably not though. Yi Jing Lang looked really good coming up. He had heavy strikes, heavy punches, and Magny was kind of on a losing streak there. So I thought, it would kind of be the same. But Neil Magny kind of reinvented himself, and I think he went on UFC Unfiltered podcast with Matt Cierra and Jim Norton. And he was talking about the mental side of the game and his approach to his fight camp. And after, I heard he placed my bet, but after he fucking said that shit, I was like, damn it. He's going to come out and, fucking kill it. I don't know what it is. Every now and then, excuse me. I think this a lot. I don't say it a lot. But, like, you can tell a lot from mental or how a person speaks on the lead up. And, like, sometimes you can tell, oh my God, they have turned the corner. They are going to, fuck this person up. And you believe them. So then you bet money on him, blah, blah, blah. But then a lot of times you believe them and then they lose and they look like shit. So I don't know. I think it's just that you remember the times when you do believe them and they win, and more than you remember the times where you believe them and they lost. Where I think that feeling is probably 50-50. It's not really a special feeling. But after that, I do remember. But the reason I remember is I remember, Magny. He got me to believe that he had reinvented himself during that interview on UFC Unfiltered. And I was a little, can't think of the word, but I guess a little discouraged in myself that I already bet money against him. Wish I could take it back. But nonetheless, he looked good in his last fight, and this man's been around forever. And that's why I thought he was going to lose his last fight. He's been around forever. He's a tough 16 contestant, debuted all the way back in UFC 157. 15-6 in the UFC career, so I mean pretty solid, but a lot of his losses over his last couple fights. So I thought he was in the downtrend. I thought he was going down. At 32 years old, not a lot of ring rest, but a lot of mileage in the ring. And I thought maybe his body was starting to break down too, but nope. Flip the coin, flip the card to the deck or whatever. Right back at it, and he's fighting Anthony Rocco Martin, who's 17-5 in his overall career, 30 years old. Out of ATT, very exciting fighter, kind of wild in his approach, but he's been around for a while as well. Debuted back in UFC 169. That was back in February 2014. So been in the UFC for about over 6 years now. He's been 9-5 since then. So all his losses came from the UFC. So he's had to grow and mature in the UFC. So has Magny, and we'll see who has proved more as far as the fight and odds itself. I like Magny for both. Magny's sitting at -140. I like Magny straight up in the fight, no matter what the odds are. He's just a longer, more technical striker, more athletic too. He'll have a 3-inch height advantage, standing at 6'3". Rocco's at 6 foot against at welterweight 170. 80-inch reach, so I'll have a 7-inch reach advantage where Rocco Martin's at 73. Magny likes to keep the distance and use that reach, so I think that'll play well here. Rocco Martin likes to kind of brawl and throw leather, so I don't know if they'll be able to reach him. Magny's footwork is kind of impeccable too, so it'll be an exciting fight to watch. It'll be close. As far as my odds, I like Magny about 75% in this fight, 80%. So I might place some money on him since the odds are pretty close there, close to even. That's a legit fight, potential fight of the night candidate. Next fight is between Aljamain Sterling and Corey Sandhagen. And honestly, this is the fight I am most looking forward to personally myself. I think it's a little disrespectful as not the co-main event, considering the co-main event is the same weight division, except those guys are ranked lower than these two guys. I don't get it. Um, I get Cody Garbrandt is kind of a bigger name because he won a championship belt against Dominic Cruz at one time, but at the same time, I think they got to push Aljamain Sterling, man. He's so exciting to watch. He's a black guy from Jamaica as well. Very, very great personality, great in interviews, has his own podcast called The Weekly Scraps. He's out of the fight camp of fucking Matt Cierra, Ray Longo, two very, very exciting guys and very exciting in their podcast themselves. Matt Cierra with the UFC Unfiltered. Ray Longo does the Ray Longo Minute with Anik and Florian podcast, which is I really like that podcast because Kenny Florian is very technical. I think he's the most analytical and technical guy as far as MMA analysis there is today. I think it's kind of a shame ESPN or somebody hasn't picked him up as to do post-fight analysis or pre-fight analysis or desk work or something, because he's one of the best. And even if people don't know who he is today, I mean, he's Ultimate Fighter 1 contender. He fought in the finals versus Diego Sanchez. He got fucked up versus Diego Sanchez because Diego Sanchez weighed like 40 more pounds than him. But, very legit fighter. Never won the belt, but very legit fighter during his time. Was kind of always a smaller guy. Could have used a 35 or 45 pound division, but, it was always at, they didn't have that back in the day. The lowest they had was 55. And I just went on a rant about Kenny and Florian. Back to these fights. As far as these fights, Aljamain Sterling currently ranked number 2 at 35 bantamweight, 18-3 overall in his career. Aljamain Funkmaster Sterling, 30 years old, so right in his fucking prime. As I said earlier, fights out of Cierra Longo there. I believe in Long Island or somewhere in New York, wherever they fight. A bunch of Long Island, New York guys. Funk Masters on a 4-fight win streak over Pedro Munoz, Jimmy Rivera, Cody Stamann, and Brett Johns. All very legit guys. And he's been around the game for a while too. Made his debut back at UFC 170, which was back in February 2014, so over 6 years ago now. And he's been 10-3 in the UFC since. As I said, very legit. I like watching him fight. Very exciting. A lot of times he likes to use his striking and his distance. But he has also very legit jiu-jitsu. Knee barred Rivera or Munoz. I can't remember. No, knee barred Stamann. He's got very, very good jiu-jitsu as well. He trains with Matt Cierra. Matt Cierra is one of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners and teachers in the MMA community. As far as Corey Sandhagen, also very, very legit guy, 12-1 overall in his MMA career, 28 years old, fighting an elevation fight team there in Denver. He's on a 7-fight win streak over Rafael Sunsao, John Lineker, Mario Bautista, Uri Alcantara, and Austin Arnett since he's been in the UFC. So since he's been in the UFC, he's been 5-0. Had his only loss, back the regional scene or the more not as professional, I guess the smaller organizations, what I should say. This is a very legit, very, very fun fight. A little surprised by the odds though here though. They got, no, never mind. I was reading it backwards. Sterling is the favorite at -115. Sandhagen is at -105, so very even odds here, kind of flip of a coin. As far as the fight itself, it's kind of a flip a coin too. As I said, I like Sterling that he reaches or uses his reach and his striking. He's got very good striking, very fluid and very technical, but also very explosive and dynamic at the same time. But he will be the shorter guy. He does have 1-inch reach advantage, but he gives up 4 inches in height. So I think it's kind of even in that category. As far as Sandhagen, he's got very good boxing, he uses his reach very well, but he doesn't have the reach advantage here. I'm not too confident about his ground game and what that entails. Let me go through the guys he's fought. He fought in Sunsao, Lineker, Bautista. He's fought some guys that are decent in the ground game, or at least, are veterans of the game and know how to grapple. I'd have to go through all of his fights and see his grappling work and nitpick it here and there. But I don't know. It's a very, very close fight. I like Alja about 60%, and I like him about 70 if it goes to the ground. Um, I don't know. I probably will stay away though from as far as putting money on this, just because the odds are so close. You never know. And there's no underdog, like there's no like plus money there, or no plus odds there. So it's kind of no matter who you bet on, you're not even breaking even. So it's a little tough. As far as the next fight, which is the co-main event between Rafael Sunsao and Cody No Love Garbrandt. Sunsao is 27-7 in his overall mixed martial arts career. Currently number 5 in that bantamweight division. Cody Garbrandt is 11-3 overall in his career, number 9 overall. Sunsao is 37 years old, fights out of Ascension MMA there in Georgia, but he's currently on a 2-fight losing streak versus Corey Sandhagen, who was fighting previously in the previous fight, and Marlon Moraes, 2 very legit guys at 135. Moraes was a title contender. Corey Sandhagen could be a title. Well, he's a title contender, but if he gets this win over Aljamain Sterling, he might get the title shot next. As far as a Sunsao, back to a Sunsao, made his debut all the way back at UFC 128, March of 2011, almost a decade he's been in the UFC. 11-4 overall since then in the UFC, and made his pro debut overall back in January 2004. So this guy's been fighting for, I'm gonna guess about 2 decades, because I'm sure he's had some amateur fights and then was probably fighting before he even started training, as most fighters did, especially back in that day. He's been fighting professionally for 16 years, which is just insane. As far as Cody No Love Garbrandt, 28 years old, fights at a Team Alpha Male, but I think he kind of left, but is still kind of training there. But his head coach is Mark Henry, who's just a genius trainer. He's Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson's trainer, and or no, is that Matt Hume? Fuck, I can't remember. Both guys are geniuses. So we'll see how he looks and if he has a new game plan and actually can stay fucking focused, when he gets hit with a big punch. In his last couple fights, he's on a 3-fight losing streak versus Pedro Munoz and TJ Dillashaw twice, been knocked out all 3 times devastatingly. Because every time he's been clipped and, kind of stunned or rocked with a punch, he just comes back. It's like a movie. He just sees red. Once he gets hit, he just sees red. And then he just starts swinging these heavy fucking punches. And yeah, they're heavy and they've clipped guys and kind of hurt them too. But as I said earlier, the straighter punches will get there first more than those loopy punches. That's basically how he lost his last 3 fights. Before that he had been defeated overall, 11-0 in his career. So now he's 11-3, 3 straight losses. We'll see where his confidence is at. He doesn't seem like a guy that would get discouraged. I'm sure he's been discouraged and kind of hit a little depression since then. But I know he had a son that was born. So I'm sure he spent a lot of time with him, at least hopefully, kind of bringing him back. And I think training with Mark Henry will definitely help out his mental game. I don't know. He doesn't seem like a guy that could ever be, actually 100% defeated to me, at least mentally wise. He's got all the talent in the world, as we know. He beat Dominic Cruz back in December 2016, outstruck Dominic Cruz, which is just insane. Dominic Cruz, some of the best footwork in the game, and striking, just staying on defense and not getting hit. That's his whole game, is not getting hit. And Garbrandt just kind of stood there in the pocket, kind of let him do his movement, and just when he came in, just kind of fucking, was just the faster guy and just landed the strikes before, Cruz getting out of the way. It was awesome. Great performance. I thought Garbrandt was legit and had the potential, to be a championship later in his career. I thought it was too soon for him to fight Cruz, but proved us all wrong. Now I want him to prove us all wrong again and in this fight, kind of move back up there because he's a good guy to root for. Very nice, humble guy. As far as the odds himself, Assunção is sitting at plus 125, and Garbrandt's at minus 145. It's kind of even there. I don't know. You don't know who's going to show up as far as Garbrandt. Like, if he does get tagged again, does he just throw out all his training and, game plan out the window again? I don't know. My guess is probably. But you don't know until we're there, so we'll see. So I don't really like betting on this fight. See what happens, man. And to close it out, I'm almost potentially done. I'm so fucking hungry. Just hit an hour or two, kind of perfect timing. Not too much left to say about this fight. Kind of when the jury's Darius popped in here with the chat, asked me if Amanda Nunez will win, I'd say, yeah. I got Amanda the Lioness Nunez all day, 99.99%. She's 32 years old, trains on American Top Team, currently on a 10-fight win streak, and 6 of them were championship fights versus Gerald Duraname, one of the best female kickboxers of all time, that Iron Maiden. Holly Holm, head kicked Holly Holm. Same way Holly Holm head kicked fucking Ronda Rousey, which was insane. Didn't even know Amanda Nunes had head kicks. No one did. I don't think Holly Holm even did. I don't think her trainers even thought, because she didn't see it coming. Just knocked her the fuck out. Before that, devastated Chris Cyborg. I remember watching that fight. That had me the most hype in a long ass time for a fight. And that was like the first. Was that the first fight of 2020 or 2019? Had to be 2019. Yeah, definitely. And yeah, definitely 2019. And she just fucked up Cyborg in 40 seconds. It was unbelievable. That's when she was crowned in everybody's eyes the greatest. And then she fought Holm. It's like, beat Holm too. So now you're the greatest. Oh, and Randomate. Okay. But before she beat Chris Cyborg, also fucked up Kyle Pennington, beat Valentina Shevchenko, fucked up Ronda Rousey, and fucked up Miesha Tate. She's beat everybody. She's beat all the legends of the game. And she's been around for a while. It took a little while. She debuted back at UFC 163 back in August of 2013. So it took her a couple years to get up there. But she's 12-1 in the UFC. And her only loss was versus Kat Zingano back in September 2014. So a year after she made her debut. Since then, she's been fucking everybody up. But as far as Felicia Phenom Spencer, it's kind of funny. The nickname spelling for Phenom, it's Fee, capital Nom. Fee, nom 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 nom. Fee, like you have to pay a fee to somebody, and then nom. And I'm guessing it's nom because she likes to eat. She's a little chunky. Which is why she's fighting at 145. She's 5'6", and she probably could lose 10 pounds and fight down at 135, but it is what it is. She's 29 years old, fights out of Jungle MMA out of Orlando, Florida. She's former Invicta champ, currently 2-1 in the UFC, won her last fight versus Farn dos Santos, lost versus Chris Cyborg, but did not get, she kind of got fucked up. But didn't get finished versus Chris Cyborg, and pretty much everybody gets finished versus Chris Cyborg except for Amanda Nunes. These are the only two women she's been beat before, but in recent memory that have been to withstand Cyborg, and she stood there for all 5 rounds and took the damage and just kept coming forward. Her will never faded. So I think that will be the biggest thing in this fight. And before that, she fucked up Meek and Anderson, took her down, fucked her up. As far as the fight itself, Nunez has 2-inch height advantage, only 1-inch reach. This is at 45 featherweight main event title fight, so 5 rounds. I think both cardio will hold up. I think clearly this is striker versus grappler matchup. Nunez is definitely more of a striker, but she is well-rounded MMA mixed martial artist. She knows how to sprawl and brawl. She's black belt in jiu-jitsu. There's no way she doesn't know how to fight off her back, or at least use escapes and hip escapes, blah, blah, blah. Felicia Spencer is a great fucking wrestler, probably top of the game in the women's division. Definitely 145, considering there's like 3 girls at 145 right now. I said earlier when Jarius hopped in the chat and hopped out, but he asked me who, or I don't know why, but this fight has the same feeling. The same feeling back in the day when Ronda Rousey fought Holly Holm. And back then, everyone was saying, me included, because I wasn't crazy into UFC or mixed martial arts or the fight game at this point. And I remember being in college at JMU, and I knew the fight was going on, and I was just first getting into UFC big time. It was like when McGregor was first coming up. So I was just starting to watch like all the first cards. And I remember not wanting to watch or going to a party and skipping watching the fights because I knew Ronda Rousey would win. I just knew it. I knew it was kind of a waste of time. I was like, who's this Holly Holm chick? She has no chance. And then I remember my friend Grant texting me the night of that fight saying, holy shit, Holly Holm knocked out Ronda Rousey, second round, head kick. I was like, what? No way. And then I remember like the next day or maybe even that night whenever I got back to the crib, I looked it up, found it on YouTube, the whole fight. I watched the whole fight getting to end, was just like, wow. Wasn't even close. How did I not see this coming? And it's not the same in that, I know who Felicia Spencer is this time, but it's the same as far as the public perception as everyone's like, who the fuck is Felicia Spencer? Amanda Nunez, greatest women's mixed martial artist of all time. Same thing they're saying about Ronda Rousey. Who the fuck's Holly Holm? Spencer has no chance. No chance. Why even make this fight? How is this the main event? This is a bullshit main event fight. It's not going to last past a minute, blah, blah, blah. So I think it's the same in that respect. And that the hype, the lead up is kind of same. Everyone's kind of like, this is a shitty card. The main event's a shit main event. I don't think it will be. I think Felicia Spencer is tough as they come. And I still don't think she'll win, but she definitely has a shot. If she can take her down and hold her down for 5 rounds, she has a shot. I don't see Amanda Nunez getting held down for 5 rounds, especially there early in the first. Maybe if she gets tired, but then she's gonna be slippier and sweatier as the shit goes on. So I don't know. Would I be very surprised if Felicia Spencer won? Yeah. Would I'd say, oh, there was no shot and she had no route to victory? No, she has routes to victory. Now she has less routes to victory, and it's gonna be hard to get there, especially versus the GOAT and Amanda Nunez. But anything is possible, my friends. Anything is possible. And cannot wait for these fights. It will be a great night of fights all together. I don't think I talked too much about those odds, did I? As far as odds, Nunez is minus 650, or Spencer is at plus 475. So unless you really like Spencer and you just want to bet a couple bucks just in case she pulls a crazy upset, become rich off of one fight, I would kind of stay away from this. I would stay away from betting on Nunez too, even if you think this is 1,000% her fight. I think it's never wise just putting that much money on those odds. But don't listen to me. I've lost most of my money from betting. Not most of my actual money, but money from my betting account. And as far as anything's possible, anything is possible. I'll leave you guys with this. God damn it. I'm supposed to light it. It's supposed to be cool. Love you, people. Thanks for those of you that supported, that hopped in here for a second. Special shout out to Jarius Darius, as always, for the host and the comments. If you see this on YouTube later, you'll see that his comments are actually put in the chat, so that's pretty dope. No pun intended. Shout out to the random guy that hopped in here for a second. Yeah, just shout out to all my friends, my family, my loved ones. Love all you guys. Appreciate all the support. Just with my life, not even with this crap, this streaming and broadcasting crap and creating videos and just having conversations with people and blah 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 and talking about shit. I don't really ever expect this will generate any source of income or any kind of way of life or lifestyle, but nonetheless, I like to do it. It's kind of an excuse to eventually grab my friends and talk about, get them in a close set and be like, hey, let's actually talk for an hour. Talk about some shit instead of just all the bullshit where you're always talking about your job and your bills and this, or I don't know, you can only talk to very few in today's society. There are very few avenues where you could just, and one or two other people could just sit down locked in together and just communicate your ideals, without distractions. So that's why I kind of like doing this, especially with my ones with the friends, and even just like doing these Kyle High Club or the fight clubs, because I don't know why I'm just obsessed with fights. I think it's the ultimate test of your manhood, test of life, test of everything. I mean, it's the closest you can come between life and death without, in a sanctioned legal event. So I just enjoy it. As I've gotten into the sport, it's kind of still a very, very new sport to me. Only recently got into it, the past 2-3 years, kind of hardcore, and then watched it, a decent amount for the past 5 years or so. It got me into wanting to, punch this punching bag behind me, just because I'm like, fuck, I'm a 24, 25-year-old man, and I don't know how to throw a fucking punch. That's fucking sad, bro. And in the beginning, when I first got this thing, it was fucking sad. It was the fucking shittiest, weakest punches ever. I couldn't hit the fucking bag with a bare fist. I had to have hand wraps, gloves, just from stopping from hurting my hand, breaking, getting little breaks in your little, hands or along your wrists. Because if you don't hit straight, especially on a new bag, that's pretty hard. It's break your fucking hand or your wrist. So it definitely felt like a bitch, but just like everything in life, it's just repetition. The more and more you do it, the better you get. Now, I'm not gonna go and I don't ever want to fight anybody or pick fights with anybody, but I have like the semi-confidence, at least in knowing that I can semi-defend myself. At least someone's running at me, I could throw some straight hands, and hopefully they come all unprepared, or not unprepared, but all just chaotic, and they throw the loopy strikes, and I'll just stay in here. I'll stay fighting a phone booth. As far as with fighting the phone booth, and I'll just and then taking a little jiu-jitsu too, on the back end of that is super huge important. I feel like everybody should at least, I don't know, get 6 months to a year of jiu-jitsu in. Dang, joint went out. I guess that's time to call it. I kind of want to finish it outside anyways. Again, appreciate the love, everybody. Till next time. What will be next time? Let me see. What are their next events? Next event, I versus Cavilla. Jessica I versus Cynthia Cavillo. That's a headliner. 5 rounder literally next weekend. Probably won't talk about these fights too much, honestly. I don't know if I'll even have an episode. Probably not. I might just, what I will do is I'll either do a review podcast solo or do a review podcast with some buddies or some friends or my brother. Um, yeah, I'll do that. I'm gonna try, yeah, because I haven't done one with some friends. I haven't done a regular Kyle High Club episode, but it'll basically be a Kyle High Club episode, but it'll be under the Fight Club moniker, just because I will primarily try to direct the conversation towards the fights. But we're obviously going to go off in tangents and stuff like that. If I get my ideal of who I would actually want to sit down and talk with for this in the future. But we'll see. We'll have to see if my friends actually even watch the fights. So we'll see. Again, appreciate the love. Now I'm just rattling because I'm high and caffeinated and starving. All right, peace. Love you. Bye.